Good evening, everyone. I'll be presenting the AP Statistics course today. Uh, if you visit the College Board website for AP Statistics, this is the first text that you see there, right? So it's one semester non-calculus based college course, right? So what are we trying to say is that if you apply for your undergrad, the first semester statistics is pretty much the statistics that you study here in the APs. It's a non-calculus based course. So what are we trying to say here is, of course, when we do statistics in school, we realize that we have a lot of formulas, right? So for example, for mean, I need to know like a lot of formulas, a lot of methods. So to say about step deviation methods, assumed mean methods. But when it comes to APs are more inclined towards applications. So I don't really need to know how to compute mean, but I need to know what does a mean stand for. So what would an average score tell me about the population, right? What were the prerequisites? The prerequisites for this course are algebra course, right? So we need you to know the set theory. So you need to know A union B, A intersection B, the complements. So a basic general introduction of the set theory. The second thing that you need to know is combinatorics, right? So you need to know combinations, you need to know permutations, you need to understand what NCR, what NPR would mean. Now, more generally, people say that whether a 10th grader can do AP statistics or not. So my answer would be yes. If you're in grade 10th, you can do AP statistics, but I would recommend that you just read a text on algebra before you start studying AP statistics. More generally, any of the resource that you see online or any of the textbooks, they don't have combinatorics just before they start probability. But since probability would require you knowing this, so please make sure that a 10th grader, if he's writing an AP statistics, he goes through these topics before. Use of graphing calculator. So like I just said, it's a non-calculus based course, which means that we'll not be calculating much here. And the major emphasis would be on understanding and interpreting in terms of the context. So if there is a case study, we want you to understand what those numbers would mean in context to the study. So majorly all of the calculations, the load would be taken by the calculator. So you need to have a good graphing calculator with you. And you need to make sure that you work with that calculator more often so that you're very comfortable with it by the time the exam comes. When it comes to the syllabus, broadly, the College Board categorizes it into 9 chapters. So the first one is exploring one variable data. What is one variable data? Basically, let's say if I am applying for AP statistics this year, I may want to know what was the percentage of people who got a 5 in AP statistics last year. Or I would want to know what is the average number of hours that I should study so I get a 5, right? So all of this is exploring one variable data. We're trying to gather a data and we're trying to understand the average, the percentages, the standard deviation. So again, everything in context. I'll be using my calculators to get all of these numbers, and then I'll be using them in order to interpret the case study that has been presented to me. We'll be using a lot of graphs in this chapter, so histograms, bar graphs. To a few of us, it may seem like very much similar to the school level statistics that we've studied, but there'll be one slight difference, which will be again the context, right? So you'll not be assessed on the numbers, let's say, right? So an examiner, when he reads your free response, he'll not be evaluating you on the precision of the numbers that you've calculated, but he'll be evaluating you on the way you make sense out of those numbers. Again, this will be like 15 to 23% of the total course. So this is quite a major chunk of the syllabus that you see. The second topic would be exploring two variable data. So what is two variable data? Let's say if I was interested in the math score, but again, I had a physics score with that, right? So I may have a question in mind that whether if I'm doing good with math, do I also do good with physics? So I'm trying to correlate two variables. So, for example, demand and supply of a commodity, right? For people who study economics, this is quite a question that comes frequently, right? So exploring two variable data would answer such questions, whether two things are related. And if they are related, how do you quantify? So suppose if I understand that math and physics are related, but then how good my score in math should be so I get a decent score in physics. So that time I'll start modeling math and physics course together, right? Which we also know as regression analysis, right? Or forecasting or prediction, basically. So unit 2 would be dealing with that. If you see, the composition is not that high on the test, but again, this is one topic that students relatively find more interesting in the whole syllabus. The second topic, the third topic that we come to is collecting data. So collecting data again talks about collecting the data so that it's not biased anymore. So for example, if I want to see how people have performed in AP statistics, and if I only take the sample of my students, that would not be a very unbiased or a very fruitful study to make, right? So what I need to understand is that what is the target population? So which is the population that I want to study? And so the subgroup that I select should be a representative of that particular population. When we're doing this, we'll have two types of things that we'll do here. So surveys, and the second would be experiments. So of course, everyone knows about a bit about surveys, right? So we do surveys in order to understand what people think about a certain issue. What are experiments? Experiments are like clinical trials, right? So when you launch a new medicine into market, you do not have an existing population to ask questions. So I need to understand how an experiment is designed, what would be the factors there, right? So that is taken up by unit 3, which is roughly 12 to 15%. More generally, you'll find this module to be a little theoretical as compared to the other modules. The next one is unit 4, which is probability. So probability is again like statistics finds all of its roots in probability. So any of the theory that you study in statistics is justified by probability, right? So probability plays a very, very important role in AP statistics. Again, 10 to 20%. So it's a fair share of the exam as well. When we talk about probability, pretty much the probability that you study in school is the probability that you study here, plus a few extensions like random variables and probability distributions. So for example, the conditional probabilities, the Bayes theorem, all of that. The next topic is sampling distributions. So what happens is if I wanted to know how people perform in general on AP statistics, I gathered a sample. That's because I could not have afforded to go to every person and ask their experiences about it. So I gathered a sample. But the problem is when I gather one sample of 100 people and then I gather another sample of 100 people, there is something which is called a sampling variability, right? So sampling variability is like when you choose two different samples, they may deviate a bit. So then it gets very difficult for us to base our decisions on any particular sample because again, the next sample could differ by some margin. So sampling distribution is a chapter which will tell you how the samples could vary. So depending on the variation, we base our decisions, right? So this is what sampling distributions would be. And this is where the hard part of statistics comes to. So for example, the first 3 or 4 chapters are going to be relatively easy and you'll think that you've read them in school somewhere or at least you've heard of them. Sampling distributions and the chapters thereafter are a few chapters which may feel like the newer ones which you've not studied before. So this is where the hard part of statistics comes into play. The next one is inference, right? So what is inference basically? Inference is again, we're working on a smaller group. So since the start, we took a group, we analyzed it, we presented it with the help of graphs. We try to understand how do we collect that subgroup. But now we're trying to infer things from that subgroup to the population. So this is actually the major part because that is what statistics does. It tries to take a subgroup and tries to implement the results from there to a bigger population. So inference is that part of statistics, right? So inference would mean that from the sample, you would now move to the population, right? And while you're doing that, there would be like two major things that you'll study here. One of them is going to be confidence intervals, right? For example, let's say I understand that 70% of the people have got a 5 in AP statistics in a sample of 100 people, right? So I took a sample of 100 people. Let's assume the sample was collected in a manner that it is not biased at all. So 70% of the people I realized scored a 5 in AP statistics from there. But while I'm generalizing this to a population, it could be so that from this sample to another sample of 100, I may see some fluctuations. And similarly, from the sample to the population also, there could be a fluctuation. So if I see 70%, maybe the population has 72%, or maybe 68% of the people scoring a 5. So what we do in that case is we construct an interval around it. So we say that, okay, like 70% plus minus a 2% could be the margin, right? So anybody in general, if he's writing an AP statistics, they may not get a 70%, they may get somewhere from 68% to, like 68% of the people could get a 5 in AP statistics in general, right? So that's called a confidence interval. Again, whenever we're analyzing any of the data, we have two questions in mind: the percentage of people who scored a 5 and the average number of hours that we put in to get a 5, right? So we have two main things that we're trying to study: proportions and then the averages. So that's why there are two important chapters here, which are inference on proportions and inference of mean. If you see, they have a major chunk of the syllabus to them. So inference is one major part. Together, it comprises roughly 45% of the course in total. So while you're studying for AP statistics, this is the part of statistics that you need to focus more as compared to the first part, because this is something that you've already heard, you've done before, but this is the part that will be new and a little harder. The same goes with chi-square. So chi-square is again the same sort of a study. So for example, if I'm saying that in general, men prefer blue cars, uh, and then women prefer more of the white cars, right? So their preference of the color could be white cars. So what I'm trying to say is that the gender may influence their choice of colors of the car, right? So this kind of a study, when we're taking two categorical variables, we're trying to see if they're associated or not. That will be covered in Unit 8. And Unit 9 is again one sort of a inference process. So if I had to broadly categorize the syllabus, I would say that first few chapters would be the descriptive part of statistics. You'll be describing what you have in hand. The next part of it would be inference based. So here you'll be trying to apply what you saw in the sample to the population which you can't see. So you can only use probability, you can use the likelihood of things, and then base your inference on. So this is pretty much the syllabus here. Talking about the structure of the test, there'll be broadly two sections: 40 questions, which will be multiple choices, and 90 minutes would be given for the same. Section 2 would comprise of 6 questions, 5 plus 1. So this 1 is going to be an investigative question. So it'll be like a case study which will have a higher weightage. So it roughly has like 25% of the free response weightage. You can use your graphing calculator everywhere. The necessary formulas and tables are provided, so you can always have those for your access. And then again, if you're new to statistics, or you've not written an AP or a SAT before, any of the graphing calculators that you buy should be from a Casio or a Texas Instrument more generally, because they're more easier for us to learn. So these are a few points that I wanted to share about AP statistics. So when it comes to the resources, firstly, please start by navigating to the College Board's website. So for example, this is a website that you can always refer. This will tell you the major things in statistics. So when you want to know about the subject, this is where you come to. The syllabus, the composition. Again, in APs, one of the resources that we have is a free response question. So this will always provide you a good insight into what examiners would ask you. Free responses is one difficult area to score in, I would say, because again, like examiners do not evaluate you on the length of the answer, but the quality of answer. So you need to know a few pointers there. Talking about the books, you can always refer to the publisher. So we have Princeton, McGraw-Hill's, right? So any of the publisher book would be good enough to start with.
Thank you so much, Swati ma'am. We have one last question from Arham. It is, how much time of preparation is needed for AP exams in statistics?
Right. So Arab, like we have generally 9 units, but these 9 units in any of the textbook that you see would be categorized into 15 or 16 chapters. So roughly 20-25 hours is what you need in order to read that entire chapter, like the book. and plus 20 more hours to practice. So 40 hours of the core prep plus I would suggest that at least 20-24 hours of testing is very, very important. That's because again, we're using a calculator pretty much everywhere. So like every second question would use calculator. So that's why we want you to be very good with the calculator part. So I would suggest that if you're studying for it, you start studying in January or somewhere towards the end of December so that you have good time to get acquainted with the calculators. AP statistics may seem to be a little hard towards the later half of the curriculum. But again, AP statistics is one part where you can score very decently if you know how to write your free responses. So it is very, very important that you go to the College Board's website. These are the scoring guidelines for every answer that they give. So it is very important that you go through the scoring guideline. This is going to be very informative. So this is the only part where the student actually needs to practice a lot. This would be one of my suggestions. Thank you so much. Have a very nice day.